system I have going, you know.
And I also think that INTPs, when they realize that they are doing something that's, I guess, like I don't know how to say, like really bad manners, maybe they will think it's I don't know how to explain it. But like they will feel bad about it, right? Like we don't do it purposely, whereas an ENTP might do it purposely to get a reaction or to understand something. Where we really don't wanna go there, right? Unless, like, of course, you say
like,
something stupid.
That's like we want to use FE, but it's underdeveloped, and so we're like trying to interact with people. But in general, like feelings, like we kind of don't like dealing with it because it doesn't fit into like TI framework as well. But you know, it's like we'll do things that we don't like, that we think kind of like we start getting into a flow of things, and we're not paying as much attention, and we think that what we're doing is like appropriate, but it's not. And then when we realize that like that's the case, then like FE starts like hammering us and is like, "What the fuck? You fucked up."
That's like exactly my point. Like I think that's FI. Like that's you like saying like what's appropriate to, like, you know, like you have an internal value system. You're like, okay, but then you just have trouble, you know, pushing that outwards. But there's a lot of FI, you guys, but you don't consciously realize you're doing it.
Well, it's more about like, oh God, I've disrupted like the flow, like
yeah.
And it's not so much like I am trying to like I'm more upset that I disrupted the harmony than I am that like
you hurt somebody.
Yeah.
People who have FI higher up in the stack are going to feel extremely convicted for going against their value system. Like if they did something that internally they know is really wrong, then they feel really bad about that, not because of necessarily maybe how it affected other people, but because they disregarded one of their own sacred values that they have.
Whereas I feel that my value system is more flexible. Like at any given time, I'm like trying out a value system, but I like recognize that there's many different value systems, you know. I mean, obviously there's like core things that I try and like, you know, that are just like reasonable, like, you know, don't go out and like kill people and like, fucking piss people off and like, you know, the basic shit. But as far as like the more precise details, it feels more flexible in a sense, and it can depend on the people I'm with and like all this kind of stuff. Whereas I feel like if I was using TI a lot, that I would be really firm on my convictions, and I would feel a lot more guilt and stuff when I acted in a way that wasn't consistent, you know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the question's still unanswered, but that was some good shit. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, right, about the role function.
No,
okay.
Don't worry about
it. Well, I kind of want to SI. Like, okay, so I'm still trying to figure out exactly what all SI is about. So it's about your subjective interpretation of how, I don't fucking know. Anybody have a good definition of SI? Like
compartmentalizing, like.
What I understand is that that it's like a dislike, and like for the importance of like relaxation and physical rest and stuff like that.
That sounds more like
no. What I think is
polar SI.
It's consistency with you want to be consistent with sensory data. So it's like I don't want to fucking jump off. SE is like, oh shit, like I want to jump off a fucking airplane to see what it's fucking like. Like I want to feel that rush, and you know what I mean? SI is like, fuck no, that's overwhelming. I want to stick to what I already know feels good.
Okay, so SI is more like security, like self-preservation in a way.
Mm.
where see, I've heard it multiple different ways. Like they say, like role function is about for SI, it's like appearing much more calm than you are, or it's trying to make people feel more comfortable, or feeling like you have that role in society that you need to help people feel comfortable, or like
Yeah, it's stability. It's like reliability, stability. Yeah, I guess it's just you want consistency.
right.
That's what I think. So it consists. So it's also why it's good with memory. It's I think that's the big thing. It's
Well, I don't really necessarily agree that I think it's just what you recall with memory. I don't think that SI is necessarily like memory.
It's the way your memory, like it's why your memory gets the stuff from, basically.
Mm.
Like how you store it, right? But because memory is just memory, but how you store it may be different in. Because actually, like you can train yourself to memorize something in a different way.
I think the memory aspect of SI that's being talked about, it's more like when you're having a present experience that is associated with some past experience, all the data that came in at that time, all the sensory input and emotional input, like everything, is kind of like reignited. Like that's how I experience SI like a lot, I think. Where like I'm experiencing something, it's like this reminds me of something that happened before, and then I kind of like get into the same emotional and like physical like state as I was at that time previously.
But
And
I also, oh sorry.
go ahead.
Oh, it's like
No,
comparing present to past, kind of, in a way? Like present experience to past experience?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it feels a little bit more like it's one continuous chain, like for me anyway. Like it gets me into trouble when I'm in arguments and stuff because it's like I'm fighting over everything we've ever thought about. And it's like, and it feels that way on like an emotional level too. And I think that's kind of like SI driven.
Okay.
In terms of like the memory aspect of it. Yeah.
Right.
But I also, as I don't know if it's an INTP thing specifically, but SI. But when I first like have made a system, it also makes me feel really good about it. Like I can do it again in some way. Maybe it's an SE thing combined with SI. I don't know. But with the SI role function, from what I understand in general, because I've read about it before, because I've read all the socionics type of stuff, right? And what I remember is that INFJs, they have this maybe I guess dislike for SI because they want the opposite, right? So an INFJ is like kind of relaxed all the time, so they want something that draws them in the opposite direction, like SE maybe. As SI just kind of indulge, like an INFJ thinks it indulges the wrong things, basically.
Right. So like comfort and predictability and stuff they might find
Kind of boring
but they see that it's necessary for other people to have, but they don't necessarily want it for themselves.
Yeah.
They get bored by it. Yeah, I could totally. I mean, if that's how SI 8th slot is, I mean that totally resonates with me. But I don't know. I've heard conflicting definitions of FI 8th slot, and I'm just like, oh, I don't know necessarily.
I wonder. That's cool. I wonder how role function is. I'm gonna have to look it up for like NE versus SE.
Yeah, definitely do that. And if you'd get a more refined definition of it within the type. So if you're going through socionics, instead of like they'll have like any, and they'll have it in every single different like role function, main function, all that stuff. They'll have like a list of those, but it won't be as refined as if you were to go to that a specific type and look at the role function. So if you go to ENTP, look at the role function, and then ESTP,
Okay.
look at the role function. You'll have a more refined version of it.
Yeah.
I just watched. I love Michael Pierce. I watched his 2-hour rambling of FE and FI video earlier this morning.
Shit.
That was
I watched his videos. I think his monotone voice is like it's really like fucking. I don't know. It gets boring for me personally.
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's like calm. I actually listen to a lot of his. If I need some sort of noise to fall asleep, I'll put on one of his videos because it's like I'm like engaged in what he's saying, but it's also calm enough that I can just like drift off.
Makes you tired, right?
Well, it's just calm. It's not boring, but yeah, it helps me fall into a peaceful sleep.
I know I can't sleep with any noise, like music or whatever.
Yeah.
And usually when I have to sleep, I just use like fucking counting sheep or something.
Oh, you're that way
Usually
with.
works. Yeah, I always do that because also my mind would just wander and I won't sleep for like 1 hour or something.
Mm,
So counting sheep usually.
yeah. I've done that before. I've also tried, like, if I have like racing thoughts before bed, I'll count backwards from like 200. But I've gotten better at being able to like get myself to sleep.
Yeah, like I usually fix it with just being so fucking tired that I fell asleep within 5 seconds. It usually helps as well.
Oh. Alan Watts. You should tell me a little bit about this guy because I'm not really too familiar. I've seen.
He's a theologian, and he grew up in like a more of like a Christian kind of like environment, you know. But then as he got interested in the study of, you know, spirituality and religion and stuff, he started looking into Eastern stuff, and now he finds himself a little bit more of a Zen Buddhist. But I find that the reason I like him is that he's not dogmatic when he tries to convey the nuggets of truth that he's uncovered through his experiences. And he's very like, he could bridge the gap between all these different philosophies and find like the common trend between them, you know, but also point out the differences and makes the distinction of like how these differences affect the entire like cognition of like a group of people. For example, it's like how does this like aspect of, you know, this belief system change the way in which people interact in their day-to-day lives and stuff. And it's like really, really insightful, and he has like a really soothing kind of like demeanor and voice. It's like non-offensive, so it's like easy.
I'll have to look at or check out some of his stuff. So when you said like in a dogmatic way, do you mean
like he's not trying to like say, oh, you should be this, you know, religion,
right,
or like this,
yes,
you know.
I think one of the worst ways, I hate when I've gone to church and I'm left where they manipulate you in a way where they're instilling fear so that you act a certain way. I don't like that.
Fear and triggering guilt in order to like.
Do not like that.
Yeah.
Like, shame on you. You should be forever shameful. You're human. You have these instincts that are not right by this system, or, you know, like if you don't live your life this way, this will happen.
That's one of the big frustrations that he talks about with like Abrahamic kind of like religion, you know, in its current form. He's dead now, but he like produced like a ton of lectures, and the context for a lot of these lectures is it's like kind of like business conference style, you know, where people come in and it's like you know, how to manage your employees and like self-help and like, you know, stuff that you would expect in like some kind of business setting, but like a convention conference kind of thing. And he always, like, in that context though, he always like brings up stuff that would never be brought up in that context, which I find also like funny, because all the people in attendance are like not expecting some like something so deep. You know, they're looking for like superficial like people management skills and stuff.
Yeah, I like the guy called Jordan Peterson because it's more raw. If you've ever watched any of his videos, I think I mentioned it to Carter once.
What's his name?
Jordan Peterson.
Jordan Peterson.
Look at YouTube. He basically has like a couple of videos on Jung and stuff, and it like really helped me like understand the theory of Jung in a way, like where he got it from. What?
He's a psychologist?
Yeah. Exactly. And he has like videos on like different philosophers and explains their way and like even Jung and stuff and how he got to his conclusions and stuff. And it really like I never realized before that Jung's theory is like based on a lot of it is based on biology, which I didn't think of before actually. If you even know.
I'm looking at a picture of this guy's face, and I've definitely heard him talk before, just seeing him.
What's his name?
Jordan Peterson.
Jordan Peterson, okay.
That basically, that like his theory is basically that functions are patterns of behavior through thousands of years, which is kind of like manifested itself in your brain, like cognitively, basically. Which is kind of interesting if you think about it.
I'll be right back.
Could you repeat what you said, like, just then?
Oh, with the patterns of behavior and stuff?
Yeah, I missed it.
So basically, he thinks that, like, Jung's theory is based on the fact that he thinks that like functions is made of like patterns of behavior in society manifested itself cognitively in people's brains or DNA, right? If you know what I mean. So basically, like people have done something the same way for a long time, so basically it kind of got ingrained,
like hardwired in a way.
Yeah, basically. So you have
to
know things like functions, right? Like TI, FE.
I could see something like that being true. So not like on a hereditary level necessarily, but in the it's like the manifestation of traits, right? Like certain genes like won't necessarily activate unless there are certain environmental stimulus that activate them, right? So you might have the genetic programming to produce a certain enzyme or chemical or like whatever it is, right? But if your environment doesn't stimulate that, you'll never produce it. So social engagement and stuff could be one of those stimulus inputs, and so it could be something that ends up being like, you know, having a biological basis, you know, in that way.
Which is basically rooted why he thinks that you don't really change types, right? You have a preference for functions, maybe. Like that's basically what MBTI and socionics is, right? It's a preference for the functions in your brain or whatever. So what you like to use in a way, right?
Yeah, in a way of decision making and your worldview.
Yeah, and the world around you, how you interact with the world, basically, how you deal with the data around you, like basically the things you feel and the things you see, hear, right? Because like you wouldn't be able to think about stuff or like without getting like some sensory input, like, you know, like reading or listening to something or whatever. Like imagine if people are like blind and deaf, right? Like how much that would impair you. like cognitively.
Mm. Mm. You know, like I've been looking at a lot of things typology related, especially with like MBTI and socionics and stuff. And like while I've been doing this, like I've been completely obsessed with it. But like I sometimes completely forget that there's way more to life than like, cognitive functions. And I kind of find myself getting stuck in like trying to define everything that happens by these 8 cognitive functions. I'm like, what the fuck? I would be curious to know, like, just what things aren't really explained, or what can't be explained with cognitive functions, like for how people are psychologically. Like
I
people
think
say that there's
I
many
think the right
facets of.
way. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I think the right way about like the right way, the way I've been thinking about it, is that you have all these individual cognitive functions, right? But them interacting together is more than the sum of their parts, right? It's like there's like an emergent complexity that comes from the interaction of cognitive functions. That is something that's like more sophisticated and you can't put your finger on, right? It's like something new happens when 2 functions interact that isn't necessarily like describable by the framework we've been using, like I get this a lot, like as I've been like exploring NI personally, like I've noticed this a lot compared to other people that use NI all the time, that like the unique combination of functions like produces something that's like not quite describable as all the individual ones, at least as I understand it, but has like a kind of like extra sort of richness and character that's not quite like, it doesn't quite fit into this framework we've been using,
Yeah. Yeah, the way I find it, well, I guess you can get it kind of like a baseline of kind of what a certain function does, but they're always in interaction with one another. And it's kind of, if you look at it as like ingredients or something, looking at it in its refined state, I mean, well, it's constantly interacting. So that obviously how it's going to taste or whatever is not going to be exactly how it is within a person, because there's 8 other ingredients, different amounts of each that it's interacting with. Therefore, it's adjusting. I mean, it's going to have a different flavor in the types.
Yeah, like that's why I think Enneagram is a nice addition to the MBTI, but in a way, I think Enneagram, like I think tri-types is better than an actual.
Why do you think that? Do you think because it makes a person sound more specific as opposed to being categorized by 9 different ways of being? It's 27 different types.
Yeah, maybe I just maybe it's just like a subjective preference where I think that it's more complicated and more complex, which makes it be able to be more precise, right? You have more tools, so you can be more precise about a person, but it also makes it harder to find the tri-type, right? Like it's so fucking hard to find the tri-type. It's insane.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because the theory is bad, or maybe it's because like it's so complex that it's it's hard to be like exact.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if you have to completely forget about like typing based on core type, because where I get conflicted is like, well, there's disintegration points, there's integration points, there's also wings. So what happens to all that when you move into tri-types? I mean, what if someone's a 3, 6, 9? I'm like, well, their tri-type involves their disintegration and integration points. Is that actually accurate? How does that work? Like, do you have to completely forget about that in order to find a tri-type, or do you include any of that with it? I mean, I think the tri-types are completely separate from the Enneagram. Well, aside from being associated with it, but it's like a different defining system. Maybe?
Yeah, like it has some of the same things, right? But still is different.
Yeah. Do you have any guesses? Oh wait, no, you said 538 is what
Yeah.
you'd be. Okay.
It's just mainly from what I've like gathered from talking with like the others and stuff, and what I've searched on myself.
Yeah.
Because mainly my 3 expresses in the way I look for information. So I have my 5, right? So I'm like I guess it's like a researcher thing where I try to understand and get information about the world around me before I interact with it, right? That's basically a 5. So the 3 comes in the way that I get that information. And the way I get that information is I look at like a subject, and then I find the person, or yeah, I guess the people that I find the most competent on the area, and then basically I will listen to everything they have to say on the subject, right?
Yeah.
I'll take the community way, kind of, I'll take the most popular guy on the subject and I'll listen to him just because he's not because he's popular, but because the community thinks he's the best. So I'll be like, if like the general population thinks this is the best, then I'll look into it. Of course, I'll still be like really TI and still maybe think it's like wrong information, but I'll start from there, right? I'll start from the popular opinions, and then I'll work myself down until I find like the way I think it is, like the way I think it works. But I'll start like with the community way, like I'll start in the free way.
Yeah, that's what I do on campus like all the time. I'm constantly trying to find like the respective expert. It's like easier when it's easier when it's obvious, it's like you go to this department, who's the expert on this? Like it's simple,
It's a really good shortcut.
You know your tri-type?
So I've been looking through it, and I think it's some combination of 1, 5, and 4. And you're gonna kind of like raise your eyebrow at the 1.
Or the researcher.
But the 1 part of it is like something that I'm still trying to like parse myself through, because like unlike other INTPs, like I feel like I'm on a mission and I'm trying to accomplish one specific thing, but I'm not like task oriented still, like everything else is still the same. But so that's the thing, like people keep trying to put 3 in my tri-type, but like I want to put 1 in there. So like so it's like how do I fit it in?
But, I could see 1 with you.
5's in there for sure. And so I have like 154 or 145 or something like this.
I don't think you have 4.
Yeah, I'm still a little bit confused about what 4 is like.
I thought it myself at first, but I don't know, 4 is, I don't know, it's just
individualistic. It's more FI, more FI based. Not saying they're directly correlated, but I don't know. Three's more
appreciation of like other 4s, like you appreciate the unique and the special about like different subjects, basically the uniqueness of it in a way.
Yeah, because there are aspects of 4 that doesn't really seem like me, like the for example, I'm self-absorbed and like temperamental and like that kind of stuff. Like that only happens when I'm like super stressed. I mean, like I know, for example, like as far as like any aspect of like narcissism or whatever, like I know what areas that I am like more proficient in than like the rest of the population, but I don't think that I'm like the best at everything, But I don't know if that's really what 4 has an aspect of. Like, but I am fiercely like individualistic. So there's like that's why
that could also be a 5 thing as well, I think. If I understood it correctly, I thought 4 and 5 were both like individualistic. They're just in different ways. I don't know. I have not looked into Enneagram again because it's like I'm still trying to make sense of everything in MBTI and socionics and stuff, and I just
Yeah.
I
Like
don't know.
I
I'm not
don't
ready for
I
that.
feel naturally uncomfortable in a position of leadership and in a position of being like a subject, right? Um,
Mhm.
and I like to have neither. So I like to try and put myself apart from that dichotomy and stand separate as like an individual.
Yeah, that's kind
Maybe
of
you could
like
have 4 or 5. Mm. What were you saying, Magnus?
I was just like wondering if like regarding the leadership thing, do you really dislike it to a point where you'll basically like not be a part of something if you have to be the leader, or can you like kind of take the role?
I can take the role, and when it comes to my like goal that I'm trying to accomplish, it's kind of like I recognize that I can't, I have to be a leader in that respect. I can't be like, because I have to have like other people to help me with it. So there's like a pragmatic aspect to like I need to be the leader here, but it's my natural inclination is to kind of separate myself. But for like practical reasons and just like to accomplish my goals, it's like sometimes I have to be.
Hmm.
Mhm.
I
But
prefer
you
to like
don't.
work side by side with other people that were like through the discourse, like no one's necessarily in charge. It's just like things kind of like form together. But the problem is like that's very rare, right? It only works with a small group and with other intuitive types that can like understand your way of thinking and like
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I
that's
also,
like a very INTP thing from
being a,
my understanding of INTPs. Or
uh,
like
but what is like what is?
the well, with group involvement of having like everyone seen as equals, not necessarily there being like a hierarchy in place. From where there's like a group leader and then people under like you kind of are all at the same level
right. And that's like my
and you're
leadership
working together.
style now. So if I have to take the role of leader, I try and like de-elevate myself a little
Yeah.
bit and level, make everyone feel like that they're just as valuable or whatever. But I run into problems sometimes with that because then people, some people like they need to have like someone that like asserts their authority. Otherwise, like they're like, well, I should assert my authority.
The way I think about it, like in a group setting, is more that I try to find people's strengths, and then I want to help them with that, right? So I value. I guess it's a competence thing, right? Like I won't think that somebody is worth more than the other as a person, but in the specific project, I might think that this person is more valuable. Like definitely, just
Yeah.
based on competence, basically. Like I'll say, okay, this person, like we can kick this guy out of the group because he's not doing anything, and he's basically like yeah, not like he doesn't have a value for the project, right? As
Right.
opposed
Yeah.
to get it done. I'll
Whenever
just
that happens to me, I feel like it's like, oh, if only we could get to the source of like what he's actually good at, maybe we could like develop it, then he could be good. But it's like that would take way too long. So it's like, well, let's just not deal with that now and get someone else that knows like what they're doing. But
yeah. I think also a free is also about wanting to be a role model, right? So, and it's like kind of like a leadership thing, but I don't know. Like I don't like to be the leader specifically, but it's like I really have the urge to do it, but I just like my inferior FE is just it fucks me up every time. Like because the like when I start in a group and we have something good going on, the more we get into it, the more I will step on people's toes, right? And in the end, at some point, like it will kind of escalate, and then people will quit or
yeah,
whatever.
it's kind of strange. Like I've started to mitigate that because I experience the same thing. Like I'll inevitably like rub someone the wrong way. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I preface my interactions kind of with like, you know, sorry if it comes off this way. Like I'm a big picture thinker. Sometimes I can lose track of like the details and the group dynamics and stuff. So like if something's bothering you or going on, like please let me know, because if you just like internalize it and don't say anything to me, like chances are like I have not noticed. Like you gotta
because we don't. That's the thing with INTPs. We don't step on people's toes purposely, right? We really want to avoid that because we like the group harmony. We like the good vibes. So if you tell us, we will fix it. Like that's at least that's how I always like worked in my FE.
Yeah.
If somebody told me something, like I was really like, holy shit, I didn't realize I did that thing, and almost felt bad that I didn't realize before in a way.
I've realized
I
that
did
sometimes
this kind of
people they get an entirely wrong read on me, like because that I can be like really intense, I guess, just because I'll be like deadpan and like conveying an idea and like communicate it very forcefully with TI, you know, and then people kind of they get an impression for whatever reason that I am going to be like stubborn or like a hardliner about like group dynamics or whatever, when it's actually like not the case at all. But because of that perception, they don't want to initiate what they would perceive would be like the conflict, you know, because they think that I would just like lose my shit or something.
Yeah.
But,
Like also, I like to test things on people. Like if I found something new interesting, I'll just say it like I read it, like, and then I'll kind of look for people's reaction or like arguments towards it, right? That's something I do a lot, and like some people they don't really get it. That I'll just say something like maybe it's a bit over the line, right? But it's the way I test my theories basically.
Yeah, it's
By
that
listening to other people
it's
argue.
that poking aspect that when we're trying to figure someone out, we like do little pokes. but sometimes those pokes we don't realize, or like we push like way too hard, you know.
Yeah, true.
They're like, that bruised me, bro. Like
But also, just something I noticed about you, Zach, is that you don't seem really eight-ish at all. Like usually, like you get an 8 vibe for someone who has like 8 in that right side. But you seem more, without sounding like FI, like you seem more. What the fuck? I had the word and then I forgot it. Like you seem more fucking sushi like, basically. Is how I'm gonna put it. You don't seem fighty. You kind of seem to want to avoid it. Like you're always like, oh yeah, I'm like maybe you're like, oh I'm sorry, I didn't want to come off that way, blah blah blah. When 8 might want to be, fuck you.
Yeah, the only time I get fighty is when I've been stressed for a long time and I feel like people have been manipulating me using my inferior like emotions, and like, or not inferior emotions, like inferior like control and handle on my emotions. And when people like, when I come to realize that they've been consciously taking advantage of that fact, like I get really really fighty. Like I wanna like destroy them. But other than that,
get physical. Like have you
no, it's always like my method of fighting is like not very physical, you know. It's
I mean physical, I mean just like fucking break stuff or like feel like you want to punch the fucking wall or something.
I can sometimes feel that way, but I don't usually ever act on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've acted on it 2 times in my life. And like normally I would just argue with people like really hard, right? So yeah, I just won't stop. Like I wanna fight, right? Like when I get in my 8 mode, I just wanna fight, and I wanna do it until someone dies, basically.
See, I can get that level. Like I'm in like an intellectual battle with like someone that has like a PhD at my university, and it kind of feels totalistic. Like I can't just like walk away from it. Like I have to win, but it's because it like he really tried to and it wasn't just about me too. He's like taking advantage of like a bunch of students and stuff, you know. And so like that's like an example of where I'm like, you know, it's I am gonna keep fighting until I win or lose, right? Like I want to get him like out of academia. But I don't feel that way very often. It's like really, really rare, right? Someone has to really violate like a lot of what I think is like appropriate, you know.
Yeah, I guess like if you would have like 8, like the third slot, you would be more like, fuck this guy, I'm just gonna leave, kind of thing. But I don't think you do that often. But just from like, maybe you do, but you don't seem like you do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's like I said, I have to have had like a couple of things happen, right? They have to be disrupting like the general harmony in a lot of ways, and like being really like self-centered and emotionally manipulative. And if like all those boxes are like checked, then I do get into like I feel like it's my responsibility to put that person in their place, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really, really rare. Like I haven't encountered that with anyone here, you know, in this group yet. Hopefully
I
not.
have.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I came after Courtney or whatever, so I don't know if that.
Yeah, that's good.
when I was younger, I would do this thing, like if somebody said something like really fucking stupid, I would just shake my head and then I would just leave. And people would be like, what the fuck? Like, maybe it's inferior FE combined with 8, I don't know.
I have 8 in my tri-type too.
I feel like it's hard not to like
Yes.
confront somebody if they say something stupid. Like you wanna fight in some way. Sometimes, at least.
One thing that baffles me is when I identify a person who's in a group as like they just rub me the wrong way, and I can see all these signs that they have like this huge ego and whatever, but I'm like, okay, so but everyone else seems to like this person and get along with them, and why is that? And trying to like kind of I guess figure that out. I'm like, okay, maybe is there some sort of insecurity within me that they're striking, or like am I legit seeing this person just as a shitty person?
See, that's how I feel when I identify like a sociopath, because like I see them like so clearly, but like most other people will be like, wow, I really like that person. They're always like friendly and they give me the right, you know, like, and it's like, yes, but they're carrying a dagger behind their back. Can't you see this? Like,
yeah.
She, did you like dislike me in the beginning?
I wouldn't say that, but when you first came to the group, I did not withhold. I like definitely trolled you kind of a little bit, but I did really think that you and Nick look similarly.
Oh, that was you. I forgot about that.
Yeah, that was me. I don't think I really disliked you necessarily. I'm trying to remember.
A lot of the females in this group were like really weary of me when I first came in.
Yeah.
Apparently that group, so.
I can't remember my exact perception of you. I'm trying to remember. Oh, I think I might have thought you were maybe. I'm like, oh man, is this going to be like a really overdramatic person because of the when you hit your head, and then Nick was like, oh my god, this is serious. She needs to go to the hospital.
Oh,
what the fuck?
I have like really bad anxiety when it comes to my body. So like whenever people like sort of make that worse, I just like don't like, because I trust people way too much when it comes to my own body. They don't understand my body at all. So if they're like, you're really hurt right now, I'm like, oh my god, I feel fine, but I'm really hurt.
Yeah. I think it's hard for a woman to come into, or like a new woman to come around, especially one who's like assertive and like they're not afraid of making waves, like you will definitely expect some sort of like resistance, like a lot probably, because and I'm sure you know this. It's just what happens. They put you in they want to see you in a certain way. They want to see that one side of you that they don't like, and they want to forget that you have like other parts of your personality too.
It's a competition thing, I think, a little bit.
It's like, a what?
Like he's asking, why are females competitive with one another?
Are they competitive? Or are they just kind of, I don't know.
I don't know.
Female friends, I've had such bad luck with female friends because they end up being catty. They can't really talk about things, or they like, I don't know, are too feely, or I don't know. But just relationships with women over periods of time just don't really usually end up going very well.
I have issues with women who are also assertive. Like I can't be friends with women who are also assertive.
Mm-hmm.
Like really assertive, like extroverted and dominant.
Oh, it's jealousy. The jealousy factor.
Maybe
women, or maybe just people in general, but in my experience, women are very, very, very jealous, but they're like quiet about it in a way, and they're like backstabby.
Oh God. I mean, I can't get in fights with girls because of this. Like I just I just like I kind of just avoid all conflict with females, because if they are like really, you know, good at that, and they've like managed, like, you know, they're kind of like the top dog among the girls, you know, like one of those types, like the social butterfly kind of like, but like they have this like fierce, and you know, it's crazy. They go straight for the jugular in your like social circle. It's like insane. Like,
yeah,
if you get in a fight with them, it's like it's a matter of like they just do this like calculus in their head about like how to disrupt your social life and all your connections, and like make you feel terrible inside. And it's like I can't operate in that framework. I gotta like I just can't.
The thing that blows my mind is like I may not like a person, but like I said earlier, I can set aside my differences and I can interact with that person in a peaceful manner, and I'm not going to maliciously and passive aggressively try and like skew people's perception of them. I'm not going to start rumors. I'm not going to do any of that shit. I'm just going to try and like cooperate with this person because they're part of this group. You know, everyone wants to be in this group. It's cool, whatever. I just don't like that person. But the whole malicious intent stuff like blows my mind. I'm like, you guys fucking suck. Like go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, it's like their whole way of like getting power, you know. And on the surface, they're always so nice and smiley, and you know, communicating and making sure that they manage their whole social circle. But they make it clear that like they're the conduit that allows everyone's social interactions to exist. So if you like cross them, they essentially like that's their whole power dynamic, you know, like of this type of girl, you know.
I've noticed like if you oh, I got so fucking rattled by that thing where I could hear myself. I don't know why, but now I completely lost my train of thought. I don't know. Just threw me off totally.
There's something in this. Sorry, that was really random. My mouth is just getting all tingly.
What are you eating?
A salad.
Oh, okay. Yeah, to go back to the original thing, I was a little skeptical of you at first, but I was also kind of excited to have like a female here or another female here who was able to get on camera and kind of like create waves, you know, kind of take like the spotlight off me. I got way too out of control when I first came to the group with like my perverted humor, and I was just really disruptive. Yeah, I was bad, and I created a lot of negative feedback that was just beginning to get too much, you know. Courtney was being a cunt to me, like trying to start like a bunch of like saying all this bullshit stuff about me that wasn't even true. You know, I was just like, oh my god, this is ridiculous. So when when another female came in, I'm like, okay, cool. This is cool. I'm glad that somebody else is here that's not afraid to talk about themselves and I don't know, share things that other people would be too scared to share.
I think it's funny you mentioned there's so much like competition between women. Also, like fucking Courtney fucking attacked like Suzanne, and Suzanne is like the most passive person I've ever met. You know, she doesn't say things out of line. You know, so when she made like when Courtney said something that Susie said that was like totally off. You know, it's wrong, right? And she basically tried to make Suzanne look in a bad light, right? But it didn't really work because most of us in here could see through the bullshit, right?
I feel like there's an equal amount of feeling women as there is thinking women. Like there's Audra, Suzanne, Carolyn, and then there's myself. Oh, I guess there's more. There's myself, she, Lightbulb, and Chloe.
Or Lightbulb.
And Jewel, maybe?
Jewel. I wouldn't say Courtney's in here anymore. Yeah, there's like a fair, like a kind of an even distribution a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
There's like one or two more feelers than there is thinkers. I think we're just like, you just notice us more. You like the thinker females kind of just blend in with the males a little bit, probably.
Yeah, true. There's not a lot like feeler males. Yeah.
There's Paul, Ken, Jeremy or Boss, whatever his name is. There's who else? There's
Neptune has claimed INFP now.
Neptune.
Yeah. I love Neptune.
We have Carolyn. INTJ.
Oh, Thinker Jays.
We don't have very many. Yeah, she does.
No. Carolyn?
Yeah.
She doesn't. Oh, maybe she adds more stuff when you're around, but she's been more of like an observer. And then maybe like putting in an LOL here and there, and then every once in a while I'll share some things. But
she added me on Facebook, and she said that she'd be my mom. I asked her to be my
mom. She was on campus.
That's a FE. You're just a magnet for people who want to like create relationships.
Yeah, probably.
I don't. That does not happen to me, like ever. Or maybe I just don't want it to happen. I don't know. It's a lot of work.
Carolyn, she's my mom, and she's like, "Yeah, I had you when I was 14 or 15. It's totally fine." I'm like, "Yeah."
Aww.
I think that INTJs in general are the true wallflowers.
I didn't hear you. What?
I kind of actually wondered why. Oh, I'll let you repeat yourself, Magna. Sorry.
I just said they were wallflowers, basically.
Oh, where they're kind of observing more so instead of interacting.
Yeah, but just like if you look at the cognitive functions, it makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
They absorb more than they interact, basically. I do the same thing. I just prefer when there's less people in here.
I wonder why her type hasn't been speculated nearly as much as it should. I mean, she's an INTJ female. It's kind of like, I think because she doesn't really show much of her personality and stuff, people don't really speculate, or they just automatically assume, or maybe because she's never
based on
questioned it.
I saw her on cam yesterday, and we were talking. And based on my experiences with my INTJ friend and the way she felt about things, like I think she probably is an INTJ.
Mm-hmm.
What?
What did you say? Do you think she's a what?
INTJ.
Oh my god, sorry. I just almost broke something.
How's the packing going, by the way?
What?
How's the packing going, by the way?
Oh, it's great. I just like threw all my clothes in boxes and didn't even fold them. And then I'm like not done packing. My room's really gross. But I went to go bring, I have a toaster oven and like a Swiffer and some toilet paper and stuff that I was gonna bring over to my place, just to, like, because my roommate's there right now. So I was like, I'll just bring this before my parents come and help me move. And I went to go open my car and the power locks weren't working. And I was like, what the fuck? So and my front door doesn't unlock. Or doesn't like open. I have to like always crawl through the passenger side door, but the passenger side door lock doesn't work with the key. But because there's no power locks, I had to like force it open. And I get in the car and my battery's dead. And I'm like, okay, cool. This is a great day.
The universe is like trying to make your move as hard as possible. It's punishing you for procrastinating so much.
Hell yeah. The fucking universe, man. I swear to God, anytime I get started on being productive, it's like, oh, your computer just decided it's dead now. It's not, it doesn't want to come back to life, like, ever. You get the blue screen of death. Sorry. Oh, you wanted to work on your resume? Nope, sorry, it got deleted because, oh, your computer shut off and you forgot to save it. Oh, you need to make an important phone call today? Well, your phone's not going to work. Sorry.
But that's why you buy a new one, because you have enough money to just buy a new one, right?
Fuck no, I'm broke as shit right now. I've got lawyer fees and all kinds of stuff.
Oh, sucks.
I live. Gotta go.
I could say it. I'm the ultimate.
Your mom? Is that what's going on over there?
She's a mom, yeah.
Oh, okay. It's like kid problems.
Just 2 kids, 3 kids, 2 kids, 2 kids.
Yeah. Like, are you gonna get snipped someday?
Sorry, what? What did you say?
I just asked if you were gonna get snipped one day.
Snipped?
Hmm.
What does that mean? What?
Circumcision?
No, like, what's it called actually? Why you basically are not able to reproduce.
Oh, where you get your
vasectomy or what it's called.
vasectomy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really put it in the veg, so like I don't have this problem. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that kind of like solves it, right?
Kind of like what?
Kind of solves it. Like, what? It's kind of like why do you need legs if you don't like walk, right?
Right. I mean,
like, why would you need to reproduce if you're not having sex, right?
Right. I just feel like I wouldn't go through the process of getting a vasectomy because there's like no utility in it, and it's like a risky, there's inherent risks. Like, why would I do that? I don't know.
I can be mean. I have mean face. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yes. Just the FE mean face.
Dude, okay. Here, I'll show you pictures. I don't feel like doing it right now because that's weird and like pressured.
My mom has the FE mean face.
I actually genuinely think that FE dominants are able to intimidate people more than ESTPs or ENTJs. Because those people, that's like their default face, whereas I think people can sense how I don't want to like say this in a.
It's like because you're not normally that way. If you give off like angry face, people are like, "Oh shit, they actually pissed," as opposed to like.
I am very adept at manipulating people, and I don't do it because I know that it's something that is probably wrong.